In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the rear leaf springs in this Chevy Silverado. Let's get into it. Disconnect the battery. We want to use a 10mm socket. We're going to disconnect the negative terminal. Loosen that up. If you have to, you can remove this plate, but you should be able to do it without doing that. Just pull that out and set it aside. Pull this cover off and slide it out. On the fuel line, there's a cap. I'm going to remove that cap. I want to bleed off the pressure in the fuel system. Take that cap off, and I'm just going to take a rag. There's a little Schrader valve right there. Just take a straight blade screwdriver or a pick and just push down on the Schrader valve. Just be careful, you want to wear safety glasses and gloves. And all the pressure's bled off, so that's good. I can put the cap back on. First, we're going to loosen up the fuel filler neck. I'm going to use an 8mm socket, and right above the gas tank there's a worm clamp. We're going to loosen that up. Now that's loose. Now just grab the filler neck tube, just wiggle it back and forth, and just try to pull it off. Twisting it back and forth sometimes helps. There we go, pull that off. And we're just gonna cut these wire ties right here and right here. Snip those off. All right. For this hose, there is a connection over here. So disconnect this connector right here. There is a little lock tab on it. You just have to push that up. It's a little bit tricky. There we go. So that piece just slides up, and then you can separate these, just like that. And we have this last one. I'm taking a trim tool, I'm gonna release the vent hose that goes all the way to the top here. We can try to unlatch it. that off. And then it's going to go down with the fuel tank. Push that in there. I can just sit up on top. Disconnect this hose that goes to the top of the fuel tank. Just push on these two little tabs and it slides off. Just like that. Set that aside. Now we're going to disconnect this fuel line right here. There's two little clips on the bottom. You want to push those in and it slides up just like that. And I'm just going to use a rag just so nothing splashes, although we already bled off the system, so there shouldn't be any pressure in there. Just separate that. You might want a drain bucket underneath just in case some of the fuel comes out, just like that. Now I'm going to support the fuel tank. That's good. Using a 15mm socket, we're going to take the bolts out where the straps are. Make sure you do this by hand. You don't want to put an impact on there. Otherwise, you could break the nuts that are holding it. That bolt out and grab the strap and slide it down. Now slide the strap up and out of the retainer. Now I'm going to take the other strap out and do the same. Take the 15mm socket, loosen it up by hand. Out and pull the strap down. Slide that one out. And out of the way. All right, now we're going to start lowering the tank. Go nice and slow. We're still going to have to disconnect the connector. Now with the tank lowered a little bit, I'm going to reach over and grab the connector right here. Disconnect the connector for the tank pressure sensor. And then the main tank, push down that connector. There may be a lock on there. You might have to move the lock back, pull it back, and then disconnect it. And lower it down. There it is. We're going to remove the trailer hitch, take these two nuts off on both sides. I'm going to use a 21mm wrench for the bolt, then 21mm socket for the nut. Put that on there first. Slide the bolt out. And take these bolts out. Use the same 21mm socket. Now I am just going to leave this one in a few threads, because once I take the other ones out, this is going to drop down. And on the other side, do the same. And on this side, I'll leave this one in a couple threads as well. That's good. Then at the bumper, we'll take these two bolts out, the same 21mm socket. Then it's going to be loose. And then if you have an assistant, you want to both grab the trailer hitch, take those two bolts out, and slowly bring it down. Now I'm going to use a pole jack and just support the rear differential. Right there. Now using a 21mm wrench and a 21mm socket, we want to take this nut off right here. That's going on. Now I'm going to use a 24mm socket on the nut right here and a 24mm socket on the bolt. It goes through the frame, and loosen this up. Nut off. Now that's loose. I'm just going to leave that bolt in there for now, and then we're going to move on to the U-bolts. Using a 21mm socket, I'm going to take all the nuts off for the U-bolts. I'll just use a hammer and just tap this lower plate off. Slide that off. Take the U-bolts out. You want to replace these when you're doing this. You can't reuse these. And you can see this is separated. So that's good. Now we can take these bolts out. I'm just going to use a hammer. Tap those bolts out. If you have to adjust the height of the differential, you can do that. Just punch it out. And we'll take this bolt out. You can use a punch as well. Pop those out. And then I'm just going to use a pry bar. Pry this down. That's loose right there. And underneath the shackle, just pry up. And the whole leaf spring will be loose. And then just have a helper guide it out. Bring it down. Got it? And slide it down. We're going to replace the shackle while we're doing the leaf spring. It's always a good idea to replace it. Most of the times these are rotted out as well. But if you are reusing it, you can use a 21mm wrench and socket, take the old one off and transfer it to the new one. So we're just going to use the new one. And we'll line this up over the new leaf spring. Slide the bolt through. And get the nut started on the other end. And keep in mind that this clamp right here goes towards the front of the vehicle, so put your shackle on the back of that leaf spring. And this spacer right here, you want to pop that off. You can just hit it off with a hammer if you're going to reuse that. We're actually going to use a different spacer, but it does the same procedure for both. Slide it back in, same way it came out. Give it a little tap, get it lined up. There we go. Put the bolt in and get the nut started. And put the nut on. So good. Now I have to lower the rear differential down because I don't have that spacer in there and the shock is holding us up. So again, the rear differential is still supported using a 21mm wrench and 21mm socket. Take this bolt out. Now I can drop this down. Just using another pull jack just to raise up on the leaf spring. Just so I can get some room to put that spacer. just make sure you don't stress any wires out or the brake hoses. And put the spacer in. Right there. I'll go up with the differential and down with the leaf spring. Make sure the pin lines up too. Might have to pry it over a little bit. There. Now I can put the new U-bolts in, line those up. And take this lower plate, line this up through the U-bolts. Take a washer and a nut. Get these all even. Now I'm going to raise up the rear differential and get the shock bolt lined up. A little bit more. Oops. Snug that down. Now I'm going to torque this bolt and nut to 85 foot-pounds. Now using a 21 millimeter socket and a 19 millimeter wrench, I'm going to tighten these bolts down. The top one as well. Use the open side of the wrench. Now we'll torque these down to 70 foot-pounds. Same on the top. When you're doing this job, you want to replace this bolt with a new one. It's recommended. And now we're going to tighten that down. And you want to torque this to 125 foot-pounds. And then if you have an angle meter, you want to go another 48 degrees. If you don't have an angle meter, do the best you can. Now I can lower down the pull jack. There we go, that's better. And if you have a trailer hitch, you want to reinstall it at this time. Because of the condition of our trailer hitch, we're not going to reinstall it. Now when the gas tank's up to the right level, you can connect the connector before you go all the way up. Lock that in place, and then the pressure sensor. Get that lined up. And lock that in place. Now I take the bracket, line that up, and hook the other bracket up as well. Get that lined up. And get the bolts in, get those started. And the other one. Tighten these down. And then you want to torque these to 30 foot-pounds. Now I can lower the support for the fuel tank. Now reattach these lines, the fuel line, push that in place, and then push down on the clip. Once it's all the way in, that's locked in. And this line right here. And lock it down. Now take this hose, we'll line this up. Push that in. When that's secure, push down on the lock. That's good. Now take the filler neck hose, get that lined up. There is a keyway on the top of the hose that lines up with a tab on the tank. If you get that on, you can slide the clamp in place. And that's all the way down. Now we'll tighten down the clamp. And snug that down. That's good, not too tight. Now this hose is going to go up top. Slide that up in place. And lock it down. There we go. And just take some wire ties and tie them up, just like when you took it apart. And another one right there. And you can clip the excess. Just use some side cutters. Now you can put the engine cover back on. Just line that up in the back and push it down. Reconnect the battery. Just take the negative lead, put that over the terminal, and tighten it down. Just snug it down. And when you go to start the vehicle, turn the key for 2 or 3 cycles. That's going to prime the fuel up to the fuel injectors, and then you should be able to start the vehicle with no problem.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.